All right, guys, welcome back. We are watching Onimonogatari episode 4, Shinobu Time Part 4. This is the finale of yet another arc. Last time, we discussed the nature of the darkness some with Ononoki. We ran away from the darkness. We met up with Guy and Izuko at the end here, which I guess we knew was coming. We knew Aragi and her had to meet up at some point. And I don't know. I'm very curious to see what the resolution of this arc is going to be. I don't know. I'm worried, but I guess we'll just see. The other funny thing about this, which I've come to terms with it now, is this is still not going to be an answer for where Aragi was and what he was doing during Tsubasa Tiger, right? Like it kind of is, but he still hasn't sent the text to Kambaru asking her to meet him at the Crane School, right? He still hasn't. He's not going to show up and save Hanakawa from the tiger in this episode. So this is another arc where we still aren't going to know where he was, which is honestly very funny. But that's okay. So I don't know. We're watching episode 4. I am scared of the darkness. But I don't know. You can line your own copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. My wishful thinking. Okay. My God, she really is something, huh? Ooh, the trees under the water, it looked like. Sure. Okay, what kind of work are we doing? Thank you, thank you. I wonder if Onoki is very comfortable in this situation. Sure. Yeah, that wasn't a very full explanation, but that's okay. Hmm. Yeah, kind of all of it in a way, honestly. But sure. Well, she knows you. She already knows everything about you. So come on, of course she's familiar. Exactly. Yeah, come on. Okay, like hadn't been done yet. Mm-hmm. Intro requested through a third party. Okay, sure. She was busy. She was busy. Shouldn't you have known that though? You know everything. Interesting. Okay. God, Guy and Izuko is terrifying. She really is. Man, I want Oshino back. Like, she is a much. We were lucky with Oshino apparently. Like compared to all of these other specialists in this group, he is the most normal by far. God. Like imagine if we were stuck with Kaiki or Guy Nizuko ever since Kizu. You know? Man. Hmm. I still don't really know what to think of Guy Nizuko, you know, like her as a character. Um like what you want to say like her purpose is as a character, you know, like the character who knows everything, right? Like what I don't know. I don't know. It's very because it seems like such a pointed like it's such an obvious thing about her, right? She's the character who knows everything, right? So that has to mean something to like someone, right? There's obviously the connection between her and Hanakawa in a way, but I think we have lots. Yeah. Yeah, she knows everything, Araki. You really aren't catching up here, huh? Ooh. Curse of knowledge in a way, perhaps. Under her control. Certainly what it would feel like, right? That we're like in her web almost. Okay, okay. Her face. Sure, sure. A bad balance, huh? Do you care about the balance? I guess. I really don't know if we can trust her at all, but sure. I guess I don't know what she would be doing that would be nefarious in any way, but three favors. Okay. Interesting thing for her to say as well. Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's backed into a corner. Shinobu. Yeah. Well, he's thinking of Shinobu right now. I wonder if that's the same person Guy Izuko is referring to. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because I don't think she's the one at threat here. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Introduce her to someone. Oh, Konbaru. Okay. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, yeah. So many people want to meet Konbaru, huh? Kaiki was here for that too. I think that's different, maybe, but yeah, sure. I wonder if Gun Izuko looks like Konbaru's mother at all. Okay. Niece. Interesting. Okay, okay. Maybe that makes sense. Okay, help with that job. So this must be Aragi texting Konbaru, right? Oh, the monkey arm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. I wish I had even the slightest clue as to what this job is, but I have no ideas. I guess we know episode is in town too. I did not catch that at all. Okay, okay. Sure. Sounds good. We have no idea what we've agreed to, but sure. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Of course. Okay, sure. Hmm. That's okay, sure. I wonder if it's the darkness isn't here right now, right? Yeah, yeah. Seems like we're safe right here right now, right? And I certainly don't think Guy Nizuko is like wants harm to befall them, even if I think she's creepy. Um, I can understand that, yeah. But no, she's not. No. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. I mean, of course, the only reason I knew that is because I knew Shinobu doesn't get eaten by the darkness, so kind of unfair from my perspective. Yep. And it's either you or Hajikuji. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm. Oh God. My absolute favorite something. But yeah, of course. When they asked him who his favorite was, remember? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially if it's like self-determined. Aragi would fulfill that criteria for sure. Oh, when he felt it was going for Rajikuji. Yeah, yeah. Because I was talking about that. Sure. Yeah, it's like deeper than that. Or an anti-existence. Sure. It's like it doesn't even exist in a way, you know? Yeah. Unjust and absurd. Interesting. Calling it unjust. Oh, God, that shot. Okay. So it is unjust, but the reason isn't. Strayed from the path of aberrations. Um, maybe. Okay. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, she was being a god, I guess, instead of. Well, that's what matters for aberrations. That's what matters for oddities. And I think that's the important thing, right? Sure, sure. Yeah. And I think maybe that was the important part too, her knowing that it was a lie. Hmm. Interesting. Fooling people that you're something you aren't, I suppose, right? Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. So that's why it stopped chasing her. That's why it didn't show up in Antarctica. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm. So what is the reason for her being targeted exactly? Oh, God. I mean, I can imagine some, certainly, right? Of course. About her existence as an oddity? That she's right here, right now. Did not catch any of that. Okay. But with that logic, wouldn't no ghost oddities exist? Uh-huh. But wasn't that always the case? Oh, him holding on to her like that. Ghost of a ghost. Okay. So, because, like, the regrets that made her an oddity was solved? Yeah, that she was no longer lost. Sure. So it's like, I guess if that is her. Yeah, she really does. She has guided you for a long time. Yeah. But I. So what? She's just not allowed to change? She's not allowed to. Deception. I don't think it's lies, right? Yeah, it's not lying to him. Yeah, I especially not like in a more meta sense. Okay. Sh okay. Thank you. Right. No, that makes so much sense. It's like she thinks she's lying. So the darkness targets her, right? Yeah. And I guess that's sure, true. God, the trees and the water. That is some imagery. Yeah. So yeah, when she's not conscious, it's not coming. Yeah, because that the lie isn't active then, right? Oh, it's like yeah. They're lost. Exactly. They're lost right now. They don't know where they are. Yeah. So even though she's awake now, the darkness isn't here. Mm-hmm. Then it would reappear. Oh, it's nobody's fault. Oh, that's yeah. The 11 years of being lost and alone, right? That's not worth it. Well, it doesn't have to be a lie, right? Yeah, you can't. Materialization of the rules. This has never happened before. Okay. If the darkness is the rules, laws of nature. Oh God. Sure. Thanks for the help. It's very nice of you. Very nice of you. Oh God. It's like there's literally like come on, there's no way. But that I mean there's like doesn't even want to look at her, of course. So then what? She just wasn't like I wish. No way to break through. I s- well, it's what you do, right? But it's just not fair. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's... Yeah, I don't know if that's accurate either. Oh, what a shot. Oh, God. Oh, oh my God. Don't say that. Sure. Yeah, but without you, like what is he gonna do, you know? Sure. Well, he's acting like a child in a way, right? But deservedly so. If only. It's yeah. Oh, there would be issues though. We can't do that. You can't do that. Not for the people around you, right? Even if you would be willing to do it. What about Shinobu, right? What about Shinobu? What you were just so worried about this whole time? It's yeah, or everyone else. There's no time for that. Can't choose everyone. Oh, I wish. Oh man. Oh, he let go. Yeah, man. What do you mean? Sure. Of course. Don't do that. Oh. Oh my God. Okay. It's not the end. There's gonna be more. Fuck. Okay. Well, that's rough, huh? Definitely gonna be talking about this one. The rules made it so she can't exist anymore. Or that she never should have existed in the first place. That her relationship with Aoragi, all that she means to him, was always wrong. That's how Aragi's gonna take it, right? That it just shouldn't have been in the first place, which is really not good. That's really not good. Man, oh my god, and she disappears at the end. 4 months later. Oh. 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 He was telling all of this to Ogi. Happily. That job was a much worse case. Yeah, God, he's just fucking. God, how much worse is he now? Did it? Huh. Bit of work to do. Lots of people have work to do, huh? Yeah. Sure, figuratively. Interesting. It's a job that punishes the liars. That is okay. You'll know in due time. Huh. I mean, that obviously makes you think the darkness, but it's like obvious, right? Like, that's what it's supposed to make you think about. So, oh, after, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Huh. Would be a lot easier, huh? And stopped being sad about it. Interesting. Part of the war plan. Okay, okay. Maybe. Yeah, that won't happen, huh? I don't know. I am worried about the darkness for Araragi. Oh, going on green. Oh, man. God. God, what the hell? Okay, that's just really bad. That's just so bad. Okay. Okay, I wasn't absorbing this at all. Sorry, I gotta lock in for the preview. An anagrama or whatever. An anagram. What? An animgra. Of course, of course. Wow, that's very, very sneaky. They're all going to be in Japanese. Yeah. But what does that mean something? I said, like, literally, what's the point? Okay. Hatagi end. Koi Monogatari. Okay, huh. Oh god, don't give me another one like this, please. Hatagi end. Okay. That was like the worst ending to an arc possible. I think, like, not like bad, but I mean like for our characters, like holy shit. Rough. Okay. We'll talk about it in the discussion. All right. I've just been sitting here thinking for a while, but like we we just got to talk about it. Just got to do it. This was a really rough episode, huh? Like, maybe just the worst outcome possible, right? I don't know what could possibly happen that would be worse for Araragi's, like, mentality than this. I literally don't know if it's possible for anything to be worse for him right now than for this to happen. I don't even know how to comprehend like how horrible this is, like for him. You know? Like, oh my god, I don't even Hachikuji's gone. She's gone. And like everything that she has meant to Araragi. Like he has all like like oh man. Like the she has always been for Araragi the one relationship he has had where he has been unable to think of it in some crazy like way where it's like, oh, this relationship is actually bad, right? Like Hajikuji being his buddy has always been evidence that his mindset about relationships was wrong, that he can like be happy, I guess, right? Like it means so much that Hajikuji has like always been around for him, right? Like he has always gone to her for like guidance. She has been so much to him in like every way, right? He fought Kabuki like the setup for Kabuki, the reason Kabuki as an arc like happened is because Araragi in some part of his mind thinks he just didn't even deserve Hajikuji, right? Like if we go back to Nisei Monogatari, I don't remember what episode it was. I have no idea. He was talking to Hajikuji about Oshino's disappearance, and he said like, "Oh, you aren't going to disappear too, right?" And the reason why he thinks that she would disappear is because, of course, he thinks that, right? He thinks he's not allowed to have a relationship like this with someone, right? He thinks what he has with Hajikuji, like, shouldn't be allowed. That's why he has always thought, oh, she could just disappear. In Kabuki, he thought, oh, yeah, I should have never had a relationship with her in the first place. She should not exist, right? Um, and it's like Kabuki, like, proved that wrong in a way, right? Like kinda at least it prevented him from viewing it in that weird like savior complex way of like saving her as he made her not exist anymore, even if like the real basis of his thought process there was him thinking he didn't deserve her, right? And now she's gone. She doesn't she's gone. Right? Not only is she gone, but it's the materialization of the rules of the universe that made her disappear, that made her not exist anymore, right? So like that's really like oh man. Um that's just really not good, right? Like I really have to think about what Araragi thinks the darkness is then, right? Like what is the darkness for Araragi? If the darkness showed up and destroyed Hajikuji like this, made her not exist anymore, it's like the universe telling him, yeah, Hajikuji shouldn't have existed, right? Or at least that's the way he's going to take it, right? Um, I don't think the darkness, like a way you could take it then, is say that therefore, oh, the darkness is like created from Aragi's mind. It's not like literally, but like in universe, the function the darkness forms, these rules are a representation of the way Araragi views like his objective sense of right and wrong that we've talked about a lot, right? I don't think that's it because he thinks this is like unfair, right? He obviously thinks it's unfair that this is happening, right? He goes on about how like this just doesn't this can't be right, essentially, right? Because of course he does, right? It's very unfair that the universe is here to take Hajikuji away from him. So it's not it's not that the darkness is that for him at all, right? The darkness isn't a representation of that sense of right and wrong that he has. Um, it's very interesting in that sense, because if the darkness is the rules, a materialization of the rules, then we now have a conflict between what Araragi thinks the objective right and wrong rules of the universe are, and I guess this reality of the darkness that literally represents the right and wrong rules of the universe, right? Um, which is very interesting, that conflict that it can create, that it might create in Aragi's mind, right? Obviously, the other thing beyond that, just Hajikuji disappearing, I just like, how is Araragi going to take this, right? Of course, the other way he could imagine this too, he could think of the dark as the rules of the darkness as being like the actual objectively correct ones, so therefore he never should have been with Hajikuji in the first place, right? Because I think that's interesting, because that is kind of like an agreement he has there, right? It's almost like you can view this as a further understanding that his sense of like of rules and justice, right and wrong, whatever you want to call it, is like incorrect, right? Because he, in this moment, fights against this, and he thinks it's unfair. He obviously thinks it's unfair for Hajikuji to be taken away from him like this, despite the fact that ever in Kabuki it's so clear, and even before then, that if he was following his code essentially of right and wrong, he should think that he shouldn't have a relationship with Hajikuji, right? And just because, I guess, just because the darkness destroys her and all of that, and he thinks it's unfair, and his like system of rules like should also think that Hajikuji that he shouldn't have a relationship with her. That doesn't mean those two things are the same thing. If anything, that just shows that it is a further like him breaking from those rules that he thinks he should be following, right? Because he thinks it's unfair. It's clearly for him personally and emotionally. He thinks it's unfair for Hajikuji to disappear here, even though he like if he was if he was Kizu Araragi, he would think this is what should happen. He shouldn't have had a relationship with her in the first place, right? So, I mean, just to talk about, like, what is Araragi going to do now, right? Without Hajikuji, I just don't even, like, obviously in this scene, afterwards, he seems so depressed, and so, like there's text flashes here. We're gonna go through the whole episode, too. I just want to talk about all this, get it all off my chest, so I just want to make sure I cover it all the way I want to. He seems so depressed and so just like destroyed, right? Obviously, he just has these thoughts about like, oh, I feel like I'm not even sad about it anymore. It just makes you think of just like general like depression and stuff, right? Like something this really reminds me of that maybe this is just crazy. Maybe it's just because my own personal experience lines up with this so much. But it's something that I really just can't help but think of in this case, right? It's like despite all of this progress that Aragi has made, despite him changing so much as a person ever since Kizu, ever since meeting Hajikuchi, even right, all of this change that she has been for him, right? This darkness shows up and destroys her, essentially in agreement, in this case at least, with Aragi's old mindset about things, that relationships are evil and bad. This kind of relationship with Hajikuchi should be like wrong, right? I mean, even as recently as Kabuki, it was clear that he was still thought that in some corner of his mind, right? And it's like he was unable to escape it, right? It's like despite all of this progress he's made, he was unable to escape this like reality that Hajikuji was going to be destroyed, right? Just what it really reminds me of, along with like this how he seems so depressed now, is in my own experience, I've had issues with being depressed, and I've had talks with other friends who've like dealt with depression and that kind of thing. Something that depression, and this is also like a famous like saying. I don't know what the wording is exactly, but something that people say about depression, I certainly experienced it too, is when you're like really depressed, which I think Aragi certainly ever in like Kizu and probably even after that. I don't know if he ever really fully escaped it. Certainly now, Aragi has always seemed like a pretty depressive person. He seemed certainly, I mean, he was like suicidally depressed at points in the story before, right? Um, when you're really depressed like that, it really feels like it's not like there is a like some kind of like something impacting your thoughts and feelings in a way where you when you're depressed you think of things in just a really sad way, and it's like you can tell that your thoughts are being like influenced by the depression. What it feels like is that like now your eyes are like open and you're seeing things the way they are, right? It feels like when you're really depressed, it feels like there's never any escape, that it's impossible for things to go back to the way they were, because it feels like now this is like the real reality, right? It's like you were too stupid to see it this way before, right? That's how it felt for me. There's a famous, I wish I could find like the quote. I know there's a quote that says something about depression like that. It's something about how it's like depression doesn't seem like a gray filter over everything. It feels like a filter that you had before being lifted. It feels like you're like seeing reality for like what it really is, and it's terrible. That's why depression leads to like suicidality so much, because it feels completely inescapable. Like, in my experience with it, I remember thinking it would be impossible for me to ever go back to being happy or having like a normal life ever again. Because I thought, even though it was my brain, it was just my mind thinking, it was my mind making me think like that. It really was in reality more like some kind of filter over my vision, making me see things that way. I viewed it the other way around, right? So for Araragi, it's like he had like this brief respite from this assumedly horrible depression and suicidality and all of this stuff that he's dealt with. And it's like, that's kind of almost what Hajikuji herself represented, right? Which she was a very big part of this, you know? And it's like, despite all of this progress he's made, and I imagine, just like a lot of depressed people do, he went through that same thought process that I did and other people I've talked to. Despite all of this progress he's made and everything, the darkness comes and destroys Hajikuji and throws him back to like the position he was in before, right? It's almost like the universe itself has like reaffirmed that incorrect view of this kind of situation, right? That it really was true all along that he shouldn't have had a relationship with Hajikuji. That the rules of the universe themselves, the same way that depression makes it feel like you're seeing things the way they are, the rules of the universe themselves came and destroyed Hajikuji. Because all along, it wasn't meant to be like that, you know? Like, because Araki loves the rules, right? That's what he's all about. He has this objective sense of right and wrong, you know? So if the objective rules of the universe themselves have shown up to destroy her, then that just must be it. He must have been wrong all along, right? So it's like I just imagine that he could have, for a time, thought he was escaping it, and then just this has happened now. And it's like he's just thrown right back into it. And it's like probably stronger than ever before. I imagine that now after this, I guess we haven't seen much of him afterward. I imagine now, though, after this, that he's worse off mentally than he ever was before. I don't know how he couldn't be. Like, man, because it's like the representation of all of his hope and the representation of his changed mindset since Kizu, everything. Like his view on relationships changing, him being able to open up to people, him being able to cross on red lights, as we see at the end of the episode when he has to wait to cross on green, is gone now, right? It's Hajikuji's gone. So, man, it's like if we think back to the conversation he had with Ogi at the start of Kabuki about how he started crossing on red lights, he started doing things that are so dangerous now, you know? Hajikuji's gone now, right? It's like he's thrown back to the way it was before. He has to wait till it's green, you know? Like, oh my god, it's just so... God, it's rough. I just don't know. I will just have to see more of Araragi in current time for me to really assess the damage. In my mind, I'm just thinking how horrible this is, right? The only arc we've seen after this moment in time, I guess we saw him when Hanekawa confessed to him at the end of Tsubasa Tiger, right? For like 2 lines, right? For one, crazy Araragi was put together well enough immediately after this happens, or like a day after this happens, to be able to do all of that. But of course, he's Araragi. He's a very strong person. And 2, the other arc we saw was Nautical Medusa, right? And he doesn't seem to be in a very good headspace during that arc, does he? Not in the moments we see him. Like, it kind of recontextualizes for me those scenes with Nautico, with like the talisman, and like his feeling like he's like failed her, essentially, right? That he's sorry for not noticing, that kind of thing, right? It's like just one thing after another, you know? It's just making me think it feels like now we're just piling on these horrible failures for him. And God, that's just not good. That's just not good. I didn't expect a curveball like this late in the game, you know? I guess we're only like halfway through the show, if even. I don't remember how many episodes... I don't know what episode number we're even on, but we're pretty far in, right? Oh, but man, I just didn't think we would destroy the thing that is representative so much of Araragi's mindset changing and everything. Like, obviously, the answer to this would be, even without Hajikuji being around, Araragi can still be happy, and he can still come back from this, of course. He doesn't need her, right? because the base of the problem always was, and maybe this is what Hajikuji's disappearance will allow him to see, will force him to see if he wants to stay alive, I guess. Um, the base of the problem always was the way he was able to corrupt and view the other relationships he has with other people in his life, right? That's why he's always loved Hajikuji so much. That's why he has always been obsessed with her, and why his relationship with her, in a way, has been the closest with anyone in the story, right? Shinobu and Shinjagahara are the other two that he has very close, unique relationships with. Hajikuji, I think, was just special and different, just in a different way, because he never had any, like, hang-ups with her in this weird way, other than when he made one up in Kabuki, right? And now she's gone, right? So it's like he has to deal with the reality of these relationships he has with other people. And it's almost like he has to value himself more, essentially, right? All of these relationships he has with other people, and the way that he can potentially corrupt them, and view them as a bad thing, view the core of them having started as something terrible, right? Like with Shinobu, that's the most obvious one, how he can always think back to what happened in Kizu 3 and how horrible and torturous that decision was and everything, to think bad things about his relationship with Shinobu, right? Think of it as not being like something completely perfect, you know? Um, and it always goes down to like something he has done, right? Some kind of like almost like a weight that has in the relationship, right? Like with Shinjagahara, right? When they started their relationship, he thought she only wanted to date him because of what he did for her, right? Um, and it kind of all just goes back to that. Hanakawa, he will always have this lingering thought of her being in love with him, especially now. Even with her confessing to him and all of that, it's not like he's going to give up on that, right? Or like give up on that mentally, thinking of that always as like some kind of block in their relationship, the way he views it. And all of these reasons come back to the same thing, which is him essentially not valuing like himself enough, right? He views all of these issues in these relationships in a way where it's always his fault that he like with his relationship with Shinjagahara, if he still views it in that way even a little bit, then he thinks that he is just like this. He can't imagine Shinjagahara valuing him enough to actually want to be in a relationship with him, other than this weird like indebtedness thing, right? Same with like on the subject of Oshino, same with like Oshino, right? He had the debt to Oshino. I think that was a factor in their relationship. Just everyone, right? Kanbaru, the Shinjagahara stuff, that's gonna be in Hana. In Hana, it's interesting, right? Thank God we've seen Araragi and Hana, because he seems like in such a better spot there. But I guess just the point I'm trying to make is Araragi can get through this without Hajikuji. Maybe Hajikuji was the training wheels, and this gotta come off someday. That he can't emotionally rely on Hajikuji forever, because not every relationship is going to be as pure and perfect as his relationship with Hajikuji was, right? It's like it really was like kind of this childish relationship, like low stress in a sense, right? And it's like, and unfortunately, Araki, the reason why I imagine relationships are hard for him in the first place are because of relationships that are more complicated than that, right? And that's what he has to be able to confront, and maybe he has to do that without Hajikuji around, right? It's just gonna be rough. It's just gonna be rough. I don't know. Okay, I feel like I really rambled there about a lot of stuff. And I don't know. Let's actually go through the episode now, huh? That was really something. But I hope everything I just said made any sense and was worded properly at all. I don't know. I hope what I described properly at all was like my view of this in relation to like depression, because it makes so much sense to me. The feeling of it like coming back and destroying Hajikuji. Like it makes sense to me in a way where for the mind of someone like Araragi who has experienced depression before, this is just the worst thing imaginable. For all of the progress he's made since he was horribly depressed to just be erased and for him to be thrown back to it, because of the way depression makes you think and feel, that it's inescapable. And the darkness was framed as this inescapable rules of the universe, this thing you can't beat, right? Just like what depression makes you think it is. and it did it, you know? Oh man. God, I gotta get a drink already. 20 minutes in, we haven't even started the episode. You know, that's okay. We got a lot of text flashes in this episode. I'm gonna hope I can catch them all. Yeah, I missed that one immediately. I was trying to say something, but unable to say it, unable to communicate. Another one in a sec. No, is there not? Whatever, we talked to Guy Nizuko here. Contrasting. Those three are so different, it's pretty obvious. Which three is he talking about, I wonder? I don't know. There's three other characters here, maybe, but which, I don't know. I don't know which three he could be talking about. Guy Nizuko is kind of in a group of three as well, with, like, Kaiki and Oshino. I guess there's Kagnui. That's good. That's a group of four, I guess. Can I just say, the trees under the water. This is also a metaphor, like a visual metaphor in a way, I feel like, for, like, the... I don't know. You can imagine a lot of stuff about it, but, like, it just makes me think of, like, Aragi's, I don't know, mindset, I imagine, I guess, after all of this happens, right? It's like he's underwater. It's like he's drowning, you know? It's like he's... Yeah, the tree's under the water, because Aragi's a tree, right? Of course. So, we talked to Guy Nizuko, who knows everything, of course. She sure does love explaining. Kaganui was in the middle of work. Put a pin in the idea of work. Kaganui has been doing work. Ononoki's been doing work. We have another character at the end of this episode who talks about doing work. I think it's an interesting thing that's brought up a bunch of times in this arc that I think I kind of have something to say about. Complications with the job. So I don't know what job we're talking about exactly. The only thing we know is Episode is in town as well right now, right? Like, isn't this the day where Hanakawa was going to meet Episode, or was that yesterday? I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. We know Hanakawa is going to meet Episode and Guy Nizuko in town in, like, I don't know, like right now, pretty much. So we know Episode's around too. Episode's a vampire hunter, so it makes you think there's some kind of vampire-related thing going on. But I just don't know what it could possibly be. It's not related to, like, Shinobu being alone again, because Shinobu... If Shinobu had, like, regained her powers when Aragi and her split, that would make sense, but that didn't happen. So, I don't know what this job could possibly be. It involves everyone, though. Kaganui and Ononoki and Episode and all of these people. Guy Nizuko is terrifying. I think that makes sense. She does know everything. The idea of someone who knows everything is terrifying on the face of it, right? That's really scary. And it seems like Aragi as well is certainly, like, in a way, through Hanakawa's point of view, Guy Nizuko, maybe I'm just misremembering, I guess it's been a while. Guy Nizuko didn't seem quite as terrifying as she does here, right? So I just wonder if, since we're from Aragi's point of view right now, it feels like she is more terrifying now than before. Maybe because of the way Aragi views her. Aragi views, like, this concept of what she exists, like this objectiveness that she has, you know, knowing everything. This wasn't a problem you guys could handle by yourselves. Yeah, even though the solution that she gives us is just for Hajikuji to be destroyed. So, an artifact spirit acting independently, a half-vampire without his partner. Yeah. That's why I came to help like this, acting the hero. Your explanation is so lacking, indeed. In other words, I've saved you a bit of time and trouble, several days, in fact. Yeah, this is a very lacking explanation, unfortunately. So we get this whole explanation from her. That, to me, it seems like it is purely just in exchange for, like, these three favors she gets from Aragi, right? Meeting Kombaru seems like the big one, and maybe Kombaru's devil arm? I don't know what she wants with that, right? We know she's Guy Nizuko. We know she has a connection to Guy and Toei as well. Kombaru's mom, of course, right? She's her sister, right? So that makes you think, like, okay, something about the devil arm as well, because that was so related to Guy and Toei too. Like, I guess she wants it back, maybe? I don't know. We know that doesn't happen, I guess. We've seen Hana, right? I don't know. I don't know what is up with her. It's kind of impossible to discern her motivations, frankly. But But she knows everything, of course, of course. It seems like to me, I guess I don't think Guy Nezuko's like evil. I don't really think she wants like something bad for Araragi exactly. But I'm just like suspicious of her as a character, I guess. Just like for what her motivations are and what she's doing here. You know, like she she's scary, and it seems like she's kind of very transparently doing this purely just in exchange for these favors she gets from Araragi. But I don't really know how suspicious to be of that. She doesn't seem like she is really manipulating him. Like she kind of is, I guess. Like the idea of knowing everything, it feels like she would just always be manipulating everyone in a way, right? But I don't know. I don't know. Huh. That thing is an existence I'd rather not know about. Someone who knows of things of that nature. So many text flashes. Guy has me well under her control. Yeah, that's certainly what it feels like. We certainly are safe right now. God, what a good face. I don't like situations where I'm the only one who's relied on. I imagine knowing everything, it would feel like that, right? Everyone always relies on you. We get 3 favors. So the 3 favors are meet Kombaru, help her with a job, convince Kombaru to help her with a job, right? Fair enough, fair enough. We don't know what the job is still, but sure, sure. Again, it's like, I guess that's what Arog is going to be doing during Tsubasa Tiger. We still don't know what he was doing for, like, the entire arc, other than, like, the beginning. So, God, so that means we're going to have another arc immediately after this one, where Aragi's doing a bunch of shit. He says at the end of this episode that the other job was a much bigger deal. So, of course, Aragi saying that, I don't know how seriously to take that, because Hajikuji got obliterated in this arc. So, I kind of don't believe him that anything could be a worse deal than this, but... Starting there, that makes it sound like it's not what this is all about. It's not all about Shinobu. It makes you think, too. It makes you wonder, like... I think Araragi always knew in the back of his mind. Either Araragi's... Either... God, can I speak? Either all... Can I talk, please? Either Araragi always knew in the back of his mind that the darkness was targeting Hajikuji, and he was doing the Araragi thing, where he pretends to, like, not notice inconvenient information, essentially. He doesn't want to acknowledge it. Or he genuinely thought it was targeting Shinobu for, like, meaningful reasons, right? Because there would be a reason why he could think it was targeting Shinobu as well, right? Just for, like, kind of similar reasons for why he could imagine, like in Kabuki, that his relationship with Hajikuji was wrong. It's like he could think that if after hearing what the darkness was, let's say he somehow got the vibe, he understood on some level at least, that the darkness was here to destroy things that shouldn't be, things that are doing things wrong, right? I think it makes sense that he would assume it's targeting Shinobu then, because I think because of the way he views his relationship with Shinobu, right? He has serious hang-ups about the way it started and all of that, right? It's almost like it would be a punishment for that, right? For Hajikuji, he didn't do anything wrong with Hajikuji, other than he thinks that the relationship that he has with her should be, like, impossible, right? So of course he doesn't think that this darkness would show up to punish him in that way. He would imagine that for Shinobu, not for Hajikuji, right? So she wants to meet Kanbaru, of course. This idea of a niece is brought up yet again, which is interesting because we have another niece, while we have someone who pretends to be a niece, according to Shinobu, which is Ogi. We certainly will be talking about Ogi at the end. That's for sure. That's for sure. And she doesn't want to be introduced as Gai Nizuko, right? Which maybe that makes sense. Probably because Kanbaru doesn't have a very good view on her mother. And she would probably be very suspicious of Gai Nizuko if she knew she was a Gaian, right? Maybe especially so about, like, the arm and all of that, right? Who knows exactly, but that would make sense to me, right? Yeah, thinking of Suraga's feelings. I mean, she can say that. She can say she's thinking of her feelings, but really she's trying to avoid potential backlash from her feelings, I imagine, right? So, a little bit manipulative, right? I guess it just blatantly is manipulative. She wants to lie to Convery about who she is, right? And so we gotta help with this other job, and have Convery help as well. She needs the left hand. Very interesting. What would she need the left hand for this job, right? And Aragi will definitely be needed. Which is interesting. Like, she knew she would need Aragi for it. I don't know. I don't want to overthink it too much because we know so little about what this job could be. But it just makes me think. I always assume, because Guy Nizuko knows everything, that there were much deeper motivations to her actions than we understand, right? Um, who knows? Who knows? And the third favor is to ask Kanbaru as well, of course. Of course, she doesn't call her Kanbaru. She calls her she calls her Suruga because she probably doesn't want to say Kanbaru either, just like Kaiki. Or I guess you could just say it's because she knows everything. So everyone is on a first name basis with her, from her perspective. So we can't leave. We certainly aren't leaving because we're safe here. Because we're lost here. I've definitely missed some text flashes, unfortunately. Oh, let me read that. If I don't make it clear, we'll get nowhere, so let me say this. One thing you cannot do is return to town, of course. And the pairing will be revived, we do know that. Naturally. And yeah, Aragi really thought the target was Shinobu. And he asks back, is that all that one says? Reflexively, I ask back. Shinobu is the target, she's not. Yeah, talked about that. But this time it's not the case. The phenomena is Hajikuji. Ooh. Empiricism is nothing but luck. That is just a weird thing to say. I don't know what to make of that. Empiricism is nothing but luck. Okay, like if you say so, I guess. I don't know. Ugh. So the darkness was targeting Hajikuji all along. We definitely have some text flashes. I look at Hajikuji. I look at the exhausted, sleeping Hajikuji. My absolute favorite ghost girl. And Oninoki thought so too. And Oninoki thought it could have been Aragi as well. Yeah. Because again, it's like, I don't know if I'm overthinking the darkness. I don't really think I am. I think it makes sense. Because Hajikuji has to be conscious for it to be active, right? So for Hajikuji, it is absolutely self-determined, right? She believes she's lying to herself, so the darkness comes to destroy her. As long as she's asleep, the darkness isn't coming for her, because it is like a self-determined thing, right? Like that has to make sense. Otherwise, I feel like I don't understand what the message behind the darkness would be, because otherwise it would represent this idea that, like, what, it's impossible to change yourself fundamentally? I disagree with that, right? I think it's about, I almost want to say you could say it's like an analogy or a metaphor for like suicide, right? Like this self-destructive way of viewing yourself. Maybe not suicide explicitly, but just like that kind of like way, right? Viewing yourself in like this self-destructive way, you know. And if it is self-determined, then of course that makes sense, right? And that would make sense for Shinobu as well. It would make sense why Araragi could be a possibility. Because he has been living as like as a half vampire in a way, if that's what he truly is as an aberration, right? He does get blown up and regenerates all the time, right? He uses his vampire powers. But because of the way he views himself as like fundamentally wrong, perhaps, right? That kind of vibe, I think that's what makes the darkness come destroy you, right? If you're like lying, right? If you feel like you're lying to yourself, lying to other people, that kind of thing, right? Because that's what Shinobu felt like she was doing too. That's what Hachikuji feels like she's doing, right? It went for Hachikuji first, it seemed. So I felt, yeah. The darkness is not an aberration, it's an anti-existence. That's a very, I don't even know what an anti-existence means, but maybe that makes sense just in terms of like this way of viewing it as like this kind of self-destructive, like way of viewing yourself in a way, right? Because obviously, I guess I reject the idea of the darkness representing the rules, like objectively in a sense, because I want to say that there are no rules about like who you are and who you can be. You know what I mean? Um, You can't kill it, you can't eat it. Unjust and absurd. That's what that anti-existence is, something that doesn't exist. Or I guess it can represent that if the characters are acknowledging that it's unjust and absurd, right? Yeah. Something that eradicates the existence of aberrations. God, that shot. Antimatter for matter. Anti-aberration for aberration. When they collide, they are annihilated. So about the reason why someone gets targeted. That isn't unjust, nor is it absurd. It makes sense, right? It's this, yeah. Strictly speaking, that only targets aberrations who have strayed from the path of the aberration. Humans who stray from the path of humanity are eradicated from society. Similarly, aberrations who stray from the path of the aberration are eradicated from the world by some supernatural power. And yeah, it makes complete sense with Shinobu, right? She was being a god. Not really, I don't want to say she was like pretending to be a god. She knew all along that she wasn't a god. And if anything, I think that's what made the darkness destroy her, right? Is that she was lying about what she was. And most importantly, like to herself, I imagine, right? Lies are no good. What was not good wasn't that she became a god, but that she fooled others by pretending to be one. Yeah. Okay, so it's about the manipulation and the lying, right? That's why she became the target of judgment. Now you see why Shinobu-chan was able to shake off the anti-existent, right? Yeah, so she did something that made her like be a vampire again, essentially, right? Yeah, yeah. And maybe that makes sense why the darkness destroys everyone else in the town, right? Is it like it was destroying the things that were upholding that lie? Because in this case, it wasn't Shinobu lying to herself. She knew she wasn't a god all along, I guess. It was those people being lied to, I guess. I don't know. Hard to come up with an explanation for, I suppose. With just that, the reasons for the anti-existence to act disappeared. In the end, Shinobu-chan faced judgment. Witnesses were erased, believers disappeared, the offender's lie was exposed. Aberrations should not lie to themselves. Yeah, it's the lying to yourself that is the important thing, right? And a lie is only a lie for yourself if you like think it's one, right? If you truly believe it, I wonder what that means. I wonder what that would mean. Or if you can fool yourself, if you can trick yourself. There's no reason for the current Shinobu-chan to be targeted, so she is safe. Yeah, because it's like, and that is very interesting, right? That she isn't targeted now, despite fundamentally changing so much, right? She's so different now than she was when she was kiss shot, and yet the darkness doesn't come destroy her, right? Like she's more different right now than she is when people thought she was a god, right? She's changed so much compared to when she was kiss shot, right? Both just like fundamentally as an oddity, like how she's been living and the way she's been living and all of this stuff. And yet the darkness doesn't come destroy her because she's not having like the same self-destructive impulse that like Aragi would have, viewing himself and like this change within himself, I think Shinobu has a much more grounded view on the change she's been going through, right? Certainly, like the end of Kabuki helped with that, right? Her being able to literally confront her past self in that way. Something that Aragi hasn't had the ability to do. We brought that up there too, right? Hajikuji isn't safe. God, Aragi just holding on to her like this. He's on her side, because of course he is. He would never give her up willingly. What kind of lies is she telling? The lie that Mayuri-chan is telling is that she is right here, right now. I wanted to talk to Shinobu. I wanted to talk to Senjugahara and Hanakawa. I wanted to talk to Karen and Skihi. It's like yet again, it's interesting how earlier on in the arc, and I think it was the first episode, he was talking about how he was so optimistic that this whole darkness situation could just easily be solved by the people around him, right? Where it's something that he is so unable to face by himself, right? It's like, and Hajikuji is like this too, right? Where I guess even that was related to Hajikuji, even if whether he knew it or not, but it's like his resistance to changing and acknowledging these things through his own will, through himself, He wants so desperately to talk to someone about this, which makes a lot of sense, right? Of course. But it's also, I just think it's telling to Aragi's like it's almost like now it's like he's using other people almost as an excuse to not change instead of the other way around in like a weird way, I don't want to say he's becoming too reliant on other people. But it's just his mindset about that is interesting. Just these text flashes, wanting to talk to all of them in this situation is very interesting. Mayuri-chan, you're supposed to be in the afterlife, right? At the very least. Yeah, it's about I didn't want to have to face reality. Yeah, it's about not wanting to face reality, not wanting to acknowledge what's happening here, right? Yet you still continue to be here, telling the kind of lie you keep telling, a lie that you're still here. Of course you'd get scolded, even if it wasn't by an anti-existence. Like, come on. So it's so hard to go through this, but a lie that she's still here, that she shouldn't have been here at all in the first place, right? It has to be different than the way that Araragi views her, because obviously it's simply not the case that his relationship with Araragi is somehow fundamentally wrong and that it never should have existed, right? That's the way you can imagine Araragi taking it. But the reality of the darkness just isn't like that, right? But I don't know. But she's lying to herself about her existence. That's where I said, if someone misunderstands you, it's already a lie, Hachikuji Mayoi. In other words, you are a ghost of a ghost right now. Unfortunately, the world doesn't allow the existence of such a meta-structure. Such an existence will inevitably be swallowed up by the anti-existence. Ghost of a ghost. Hachikuji Mayoi is a ghost that died 11 years ago in a traffic accident. Strictly speaking, she's the lost cow, an aberration of a snail. Lost cow, an aberration getting people lost. But that was resolved thanks to Koyomin, his girlfriend, and the inexperienced Mime. Inexperienced, god. Moira-chan is no longer lost, but she still stands here. If that isn't a lie, what is it? Hachikuji Mayoi is nothing but a lost cow. I don't know, it's so interesting. I really feel like there's some meta stuff at play here. Like directed at the meta way that you can view Hachikuji throughout the story, and like what we're saying here, right? The idea that Hachikuji is actually nothing more than a lost cow, right? I just don't really know what to make of it. That line feels so meaningful to me. But I just don't know what to think about it, right? Like, I guess an angle I kind of want to take it down. Maybe I shouldn't explore it in this way. Maybe it's just wrong. But is what I was saying earlier about how, despite what Hachikuji has always represented for Araragi, she is just a lost cow. She isn't literally that, right? Like, without her around, it's not like that aspect of him has to be gone, and he can't still have meaningful relationships with others, right? He can do that without Hachikuji, right? She has always just been the lost cow. He doesn't need her to, like, be a person and to be happy, right? I certainly don't blame him for feeling like that, especially now. I don't know how he's ever going to recover from this, but maybe. As long as she's the lost cow, she has to continue making people lose their way, and she has been doing the opposite of that, but she is not doing so. God, I cannot catch that one. An aberration's lot is harsh. And it's like, it's so interesting how her purpose has always been to make people lose their way, right? And it's like, if Aragi wanted to view her in this negative way, where he thinks that his relationship with her is somehow fundamentally wrong, then that would be him being, like, led astray by his relationship with her, right? But the reality of it is, it's almost like the darkness is reinforcing this in a way. The reality of it is she's actually been guiding him and helping him so much. And that is what is wrong, in a sense, right? So the darkness destroys her, right? So it's interesting in that sense how, through fulfilling this positive relationship with Araki, that's what's been so negative, right? Like, negative through, like, the darkness's eyes, I guess. That's what makes her get destroyed. That's what the lie is, right? So I guess there's multiple ways you could take that. You could take that to mean that her doing that was wrong, and that her relationship with Araragi was, like, wrong in some way, like, from his perspective, right? Or you could take it to mean that it was, like, truly meaningful and genuine, right? And that she really was guiding him. Their relationship really was always great. And the darkness destroying her is evidence of that, because she was supposed to be the one making him lost, you know? I guess it just depends, right? It depends on whether or not Araragi is going to insist on his continued adherence to these objective rules of what's right and wrong, right? Because in this case, the darkness agrees with his system, right? So either he has to say that his relationship with Hachikuji was wrong, and he's going to agree with the darkness, and it should have been destroyed, or he's going to say, the darkness, therefore me, is wrong. Hachikuji was helping me, and she was good. The fact that the darkness destroyed her for that is just unjust and unfair, and that means this whole system of adhering to this objective system of right and wrong is wrong in the first place, because this was unjust and unfair, right? I've gone to Shinjigahara's place with Hachikuji before. I've never gotten lost while walking with Hachikuji. Or rather, she often shows me the way. Yeah, she sure does. She sure does. Oh god. That's where I thought Hachikuji was no longer the lost cow she once was. That's how I saw Hachikuji. It's like he wanted to believe she somehow fundamentally changed because he thinks that's the only way this kind of thing can like work, right? Like, because he believes in like this fundamental nature of things through like his belief in this like objective rule based right and wrong. You know, like he believes that about himself certainly. Hmm. Wasn't that girl lying to you from the very beginning? No, she wasn't lying to him, right? Like, yeah, if he accepted that she was lying to him, that would be bad because then he would think that what she represents for him, the relationship he has with her, was in some way a lie or was in some way wrong, right? I mean, in a way, it's almost worse. It's almost worse what happens now. What happens in this episode, because he doesn't accept that. He doesn't accept that his relationship with her was bad. Um, it's just now he's in disagreement with the rules of the universe, right? It's almost like now he's getting a taste of, in his mind perhaps, of what it means for him to live against these rules that he thinks he should live by, you know? Like, it's like if we go back ever since Kizu, he wanted to adhere to those rules. They made him miserable. He wanted to kill himself. Over the past few months of this, everything leading up to this in the show, he has become much happier. He's so different as a person now than ever since Kizu. And then the darkness comes and destroys Hachikuji because he's breaking the rules and now he's miserable again, right? So it's almost like he doesn't reject this. He doesn't go back to this idea that he should have been adhering to those rules all along. No, he thinks his relationship with Hachikuji wasn't a lie. Just the rules destroyed her anyway. So then there's nothing for him to do. He's just yeah, like I don't know how he's gonna escape this, like mentally, you know. But I couldn't look back then. I looked at Guine. I couldn't look back then. Obviously, like you wanna interesting. I don't know. That is an interesting line. It makes me think of when he didn't want to look back at the darkness. All of these things he doesn't want to like acknowledge in a sense, I guess. You're right, that's correct. I was mistaken just now. The person she lied to was herself, exactly. Well, in either case, because she strayed from the path of the lost cow, Mayuri-chan will be punished and judged. Punished and judged. And he says it's impossible while looking away, because I think he gets it. I think unfortunately, in a corner of his mind, he understands why she needs to be punished and judged, because he knows that his system of right and wrong also thinks that she's wrong in a way, right? And this is just the reality of it, you know? It's true that we don't have physical evidence, but there are a few pieces of circumstantial evidence. Yeah, when she's unconscious, right? The lie like isn't active. Yeah. And then this whole time they've been lost. Yeah, having no idea, completely lost. No idea where they are. They're in the middle of it. She's making them lost right now. She's fulfilling her nature. Yeah. It doesn't appear where Shinobu is. It doesn't appear where Hachikuji is. And if they return back, they wouldn't be lost anymore. She would lose her nature as an aberration. Yeah, yeah. It's not her fault. It's nobody's fault. I'm convinced of it. It's just an interesting thing for him to say that he thinks it's nobody's fault. I don't know how seriously to take that line because that to me, him being able to recognize that this is so unfair and unjust, like truly understand that, would be such a strong breaking from his objective sense of right and wrong, right? Because maybe that's the important part. Maybe this is the beginning of that, right? Because really, the only solution to him not being depressed forever after Hachikuji's disappearance here will be him breaking down this structure of rules that he thinks like traps him, right? So, and I think his recognition that this is unjust and unfair, his recognition that this is unjust and unfair either represents that or the other way he can take it, which I think he is that despite it being unjust and unfair, he's still trapped by it forever. And it just makes him depressed, right? Hmm. And of course Hachikuji doesn't want to do that. She does not want to be the lost cow. But I would never do that. I decided to lie and say that. Live as you were meant to, as an aberration. But there's no way to defeat it. It's not something you defeat. It's a materialization of the rules. I was at a loss for words. Yeah, what a thing to hear her say. This has never happened before. Yeah, like, I just wonder what's going through his head. I was at a loss for words. This has never happened before. Like, what does he think when he hears Guy Nezuko say it's a materialization of the rules, you know? Because the rules is just such an important thing for Aragi, right? Like, man. We do it the way we always do. We handle this following the rules. You can't violate laws of nature. Specifically, I just need to disappear. Yeah, which it's just crazy how we're doing this right after Kabuki, right? It's right after we just dealt with this from Aragi's point of view. This idea of making Hachikuji disappear, you know? Like, oh man. Thanks, Guy Nezuko. You really helped out with the situation. You really made it so much better for us. You really, yeah, thanks, thank you. You really earned those 3 favors, huh? I love Ononoki. This arc just really makes me like Ononoki. No reason other than how I'm lost together with you. If I went home right now, I thought that might trigger the darkness again. To talk about this from the deranged, like, thematic way I was trying to analyze the whole last episode again, there has to be some meaning behind Ononoki, like Hachikuji being carried on Ononoki's back at the end there, Ononoki staying here for Hachikuji. There's some kind of thematic meaning behind it for, like, whatever you want to say Ononoki represents. I just literally don't know. It would be so hard. It would be so hard. God, he just can't even look at her, just holding on to her, because of course he doesn't want to give up, right? You're gonna make me go through the same thing Shinobu-san went through 400 years ago. Let go of this hand. It's an unfair way to put things. Like, from Aragi's point of view, it's like, this is just so unfair to him. It's just so unfair, right? Because he has always helped all these other people, right? It's so unfair. It's so unfair. He's always helped all these other people, and it's like Hachikuji was the thing that he, like, got from it, in a way, right? Hachikuji was always, like, this was the one thing where he could truly view this as a truly positive outcome, something that he really has in his life that is so great. Ever since everything that's happened in Kizu, right? She's the one thing that he can truly look at and be like, thank God Hachikuji's here for me, right? He can't, in his broken mind, think of some crazy way to, like, view it in a bad way, you know? And the one thing that he has, Hachikuji, gets ripped away from him, you know? Like, I didn't think that it would last forever. But again, it's like these kinds of lines, right? Saying that it couldn't last forever, that it's extra endings, that it's a bonus stage, right? It again, it's like, maybe this is a rough way to look at it, but it does make me think of this idea of Hachikuji almost being like training wheels for Aragi in a way, where he can't have her forever. It was almost too good for her to be around forever. And that's unfair to say, in a way, right? But for Aragi's sake, as, like, being able to develop more as a character moving forward in the story, maybe this is just what has to happen, which fucking sucks, right? But, like, I guess, right? Man. But I guess my problem with that, there was, I just reject that idea that Hachikuji can't be around. You know what I mean? Because, like, that just seems so unfair, that Hachikuji can't be around, you know? That his reliance on her is in some way hurting him. I don't want to accept that, you know? I just don't believe that can be right, you know? Even though I understand that could be what the author's doing with this, you know? I knew it would end someday, that the end was more abrupt than I'd imagined. But still, this is how it should be. I took a few too many liberties with my lies, like falling asleep at your place. Simply had too much fun talking to you, and I delayed going over to the other side for all this time. I wish for such fun times to continue forever, but... And he just wants to think of something so desperately. It's like, for once, what's so sad about this is he's not thinking about this for Hachikuji's sake, right? For once, he's so desperate to essentially save himself, in a way, right? Right now, what he really wants isn't for Hachikuji to be around, right? He does, but not for Hachikuji's sake. He wants her to stay around for his own sake, right? This is like, in a sense, this is big because this is the first time he's so desperately looking for an answer and wanting something for himself, right? He wants Hajikuji to be around. He's desperately trying to hold on to this relationship with her because of what it means for him, right? Instead of, like, always, what he always does is just think about other people and what his actions could do for others and, all of this stuff, right? But the first time ever where he is thinking about holding on to her and having her have this relationship with him still. And he wants it so badly for himself, and it gets ripped away from him anyway, like, wasn't the world rather nice to us through all of this? God, that's just such a thing to say, right? With the way Aragi could be viewing it, right? That it was somehow wrong the whole time. Yeah, that her existence was always wrong. That her existence was nonsensical. That she couldn't have existed like this forever. It's just this reaffirmation of so many wrong thoughts that Aragi has, Man, or at least that's just the way you can take it, But taking on all the responsibility for yourself alone, Hachikuji, and because of it, saving everyone else. And it's like, for once, it gets thrown back at him. He gets to see the absurdity of it, in a way, Obviously, I don't want to say it's absurd, because I understand Hachikuji's... It's like Hachikuji's situation is different in the way it is for Aragi, For Aragi, it is wrong for him to always do that, And it's the one time where he wants to flip it around and have him get something out of it for once, right? Have him hold on to something. He can't. It fails, Man. It's okay for you to do it, but you won't let others. That reasoning doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. No, that's fair for her to say, because of course, and it's not even like it's not even like the same on both ends, because normally it's much more lopsided, where Aragi's viewing it in a very unfair way, like, for himself, Why do you act like all this is normal? It's true that it might look like what I've been doing, but not once have I been completely fine with it. I've always fought on the verge of tears. I've always fought more crying. How can you look just like you have no worries or dissatisfaction? And yeah, she's not like that. I'm not dissatisfied with anything. All of this has been fun. It's been a bonus stage. It's been extra innings, I suppose. I'll be looking out for you from up in the skies. God, there's so many lines in this that are so sad. Because he's not going to be satisfied with that. Yeah, he can't be satisfied with something like that, right? He wants her. He wants it so badly, everything that she represents, And he... God. I'm purely going home. God, I won't be here anymore, but that doesn't mean I was never here to begin with, right? And that is the important thing. That's the thing that Aragi has to be able to comprehend, right? That she was here, and what he had with her isn't meaningless just because she's gone now, right? Like, that's what he has to be able to get over. That's what he has to be able to do, right? To be able to, like, function, Like, to be able to continue to develop and change as a person, But he says it's all one and the same, it's just a play on words, but it isn't, it's not, it isn't, right? Like, but of course he's gonna view it like that, because without her... That's enough of that. I can't tell which of you two is the child here, because he really is acting childish here. He wants to hold on to her so badly forever. But of course he does, right? Like, of course he does. Like, come on. Stop talking about yourself and think about what I'm going through, even for a little bit. And it's so maddening, because I understand him here so much, right? How for once, he wants to put what he wants above the needs of another person in a way, right? He wants her to stay here anyway, right? Despite what it will mean for other people. Despite what she wants, in a sense, because of what it means for him, And I'm not saying that's like a good thing, right? But it's just the first time he's, like, done this, That he's been able to do this for himself, Stay lost with her forever, but he can't do that. It won't solve everything. He can't give up on everything else. All I have to do is stay lost with you forever. And it's like, in a way, it's like, there's always been the weird way that you can view Hachikuji as, like, this childishness. This like, childish side of Aragi, almost, right? It's not really like this childish side of Aragi, but almost like the way he's able to act like this with her that he can't with other people, right? Like this childish attitude he can have with her that he is unable to, like, kind of, release his his like trepidations and act like that with other people, right? He's able to act in like this way that seems so childish with her, right? And I guess like he it's not that he has to give up on that, right? It's not that feeling has to stay lost forever. But it's I don't know. I guess I just don't even know what the message behind this you would say is. I feel like I had something there for a moment, but maybe I just don't. That the idea that he can't have that forever, that she is going to be lost, that. Especially this is so sad because like it's like he was so worried about Shinobu and yeah, Sindrugahara too all this time, it's like, and now he's thinking, oh, I'll just give up on all of that just to have Hajikuji forever, but he can't do that, right? He can't. Yeah, there's so many other people. There's so many other people that mean so much to him, right? And I guess that's the point of what's being brought up here is Hajikuji has always represented this special relationship for him, right? But it's purely because of his own thoughts on it, right? His relationship with her isn't actually like better or more special than his relationship with other people. Those are just as meaningful. It's just because of the way he views them, right? So he can't give up on everyone else just for this relationship with Hajikuji that he values. He has to be able to get past everything else, all of this other stuff in his other relationships, and view them in the same way he's always been able to view his relationship with Hajikuji, essentially, right? Think of each of them later, but we can't do that. It's not how it works. Yeah. God, she just says all these. Yeah, but he can't be satisfied with this. He can't. An answer like that, just one of these cliches, essentially. No, he can't. These 3 months that I've spent having fun chats with you have made up plenty for the 11 years I was lost on the streets by myself. So it's all right now. Thank you very much. And they do their game one last time. And she kisses him. Man. It's very funny because, like, in a sense, it's like you can tell after he kissed Ononoki and Shinobu in kind of like these silly, stupid ways that, like, kind of didn't really mean anything, right? It's like you could tell that maybe he was going to end up kissing Hachikuji as well in this arc, right? It's like we set that up in this way where it's like you can tell maybe that's what the author's doing, right? It's so funny, right? But he somehow finds a way to make it so this kiss with Hajikuchi is so meaningful and so emotional and so like it's so different than the other ones. It's like God, it's funny because this is the first thing where it's like he's always acted so ridiculous and so over the top with Hajikuchi in this crazy like sexual way. But this is the first thing that's actually meant something and has actually been meaningful, right? And it's so, God. And it's not like that, right? It's not like that. And she's gone. Man. Now, I'm mad because I know there was something I was going to say in relation to the whole way you can view Hajikuji and like the way of viewing it and like this Aragi being able to release his inhibitions and like act in this childish way with her, but there was something on the tip of my tongue about that, but I don't know how to word it, and I don't really know exactly what it was. So I guess it's lost forever. I don't know. I don't know. It was something. It was definitely something. Okay, let's talk about Ogi. 4 months later. So when August, September, October, November. So this is like late November, I guess. Well, August to October. I mean, August to September to October to November. Like I guess this is late November, maybe December, right? Somewhere in there. Hmm. Probably December, right? Because it was August 21st. So if we're saying 4 months later, I assume we aren't going to say it's 4 months later. It's only November, right? Like even if it was like November like 30th, that would only be like 3 months later. So probably December, right? Anyway, he was telling this whole story to Ogi, which is really interesting. Very interesting that he was having this heart to heart with Ogi yet again, kind of, right? Because it seemed like the first time we saw Ogi was with that conversation with Hajikuji. I mean, not about Hajikuji, like, kind of. The conversation that was reminded him of Hajikuji, essentially. I guess it wasn't really about Hajikuji. It reminded him about Hajikuji and triggered Kabuki, right? It was about traffic lights. It was about all of this crazy shit that was, like, showed that Ogi has this crazy, deeper understanding of Araragi than, like, anyone else in the story, apparently. Which is very interesting. Um, I guess I don't want to go too far with what I imagine Ogi could, like, be at this point. But with what she says here in a minute about having a job and saying that she punishes liars, saying that she corrects the mistaken, blah, 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 blah. Combined with the way she looks, I feel like I've said this before anyway. I think it's pretty obvious, especially with what Shinobu says here in a minute, about her being something. Ogi is an oddity, is an aberration, right? She has to be, right? She looks freaky. She's gotta be, right? Obviously. She's pretending to be Oshino's niece, which is very interesting. Very interesting that she's doing that she's pretending to be Oshino Ogi. Because I think, I guess let's get it out here, right? So, if she's an oddity, if she's an aberration, she has to be formed by a belief or a problem, probably a specific problem that a character in the story has, right? Like for the tiger for Hanakawa, Black Hanakawa for Hanakawa. Those are like the most obvious ones, right? The monkey arm for Konbaru was very much representative of like her problems, the way she viewed herself, right? That's just how oddities are in the story at large, right? They're normally, so many of them have been formed by the specific problem a character has, right? So if Ogi is an oddity, is an aberration, then we want to think, okay, what character would she be, like, linked to in that way, right? Well, there is a character who hasn't really had their oddity, their aberration yet, right? Who has these big, giant problems about things, right? Who certainly is more mentally messed up than most of the characters who have had their own oddity and aberration spawn in because of their problem, right? And that's Araragi, right? Combined with Ogi obviously having this apparently insane deep knowledge of Aragi's inner mind and his inner workings, it really makes me think that Ogi has to be an oddity that is linked very specifically to Araragi and is essentially probably just representative of a problem he has, right? I mean, like, the other oddities have been very direct parallels in, like, the way that they are, the way they're designed, the way they function to, like, a direct problem that a character has, right? Like Black Hanakawa, this is always my favorite example. I feel like it's like the most meaningful one. Black Hanakawa with energy drain, like draining people when she touches them. That's, like, perfectly representative of Hanakawa's mindset before about, like, relationships. Her thinking that she's always a burden on other people and her wanting to avoid that, right? It's like her energy draining other people if she, like, is interacts with them, you know? So we have to assume, based off all of this, I assume Ogi, then, is related to a problem Araragi has, right? Araragi is a man of many problems, right? He has a whole lot of issues, right? What's the epilogue or punchline for this episode? Very interesting that she says it like that. It makes you think, for one, like, her saying it like that makes you think that Araragi has told her other things, right? That it's like he's ran through other scenarios in his life with her, right? That he's talked to her about other things as well. You know, it seems like it's like a thing they do. It makes me assume that the reason why Ogi knew so much about Araragi already in Kabuki was because he's probably told her a bunch of shit about himself, and she's, like, psychoanalyzing him, right? Or, of course, I mean, if she's just, like, essentially a part of Araragi because she's an oddity spawned in by one of his problems, then, of course, I guess she would know a lot about him, right? Hajikuji happily made it into the afterlife, and Inoki-chan and I came back to this town. And as promised, I helped with Gain-san's job. That job was a much worse case. I just literally don't believe Araragi. Is that crazy for me to say I just don't believe Araragi that it was a worse case? Because, like, how could anything be worse than Hajikuji disappearing? That doesn't make it, that doesn't make any sense at all. It was quite an ordeal. I do sympathize. In the end, I just did nothing. I was just being led around by Hajikuji and by fate. What a thing to say. God, he's so depressed. I still think to this day that there was some other way to go about it. It's such an interesting thing for him to say, that there should have been some other way to go about it, because it was the rules of the universe itself that destroyed her, right? Rules that you would think he agrees with because of his own view of Hajikuji and, like, Kabuki, right? So that's just a very interesting thing for him to say, that there should have been another way to go about it. You were just barely safe. It was the most sensible choice, going to the afterlife rather than being swallowed up by the darkness. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's like Ogi... It's interesting that Ogi kind of... It's almost like she doesn't pick up on what Araragi's getting at there, right? Like, the implication to me from what Araragi just said is there should have been some way for Hajikuji to not be destroyed. But no, I guess she just kind of disagrees with him. She just says, like, you were safe. It was sensible for her to be destroyed, essentially, right? There's a good story for me to hear. Thank you very much, Araragi. Being able to share it took a load off my shoulders. Let me give you my thanks. Now I have a bit of work to do, so I'll excuse myself for today. So, okay, this idea of her having work to do is very interesting. Because again, as we keep bringing up this idea of work that people have to do, right? Maybe that's like a stupid thing to say. But oddities always have a purpose, right? Every oddity we've seen has like some kind of job, essentially, right? The tiger had to go around burning down houses. Black Hanakawa had to go around draining people. The monkey had to go beat people up. Like, what else? I struggle to think of other examples, right? Oddities always have a purpose to fulfill. Hajikuji had to make people be lost, right? So Ogi has a job. She has a purpose to do as well, right? Which is ordinary work. It's a very commonplace job, like the overwhelming darkness that takes up most of the universe. So, okay. The author's trolling us, trying to make us, like, think in some way that Ogi's the darkness. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to say Ogi is the darkness, because we were just told all this stuff about how the darkness doesn't exist, and it's like it's a meta-existence. It's a layer beyond oddities. The darkness wouldn't need something like Ogi, right? Ogi can't be the darkness. That doesn't make any sense, right? Correct the mistaken, end what needs to be ended. If I had to describe it, I'd say it's a job that punishes liars. So, it's almost like you could say Ogi fulfills... I mean, she compares her own job to the darkness, essentially, right? She literally says it's a commonplace job, just like the darkness, essentially, right? She compares her job to the darkness. So if we're saying that Ogi is somehow... Ogi has this deep link to Araragi, right? All the justification I have for her being, like, an oddity directly related to something about Araragi, then we need to think, what would be the problem that Araragi has that would externalize itself as an oddity that fulfills this purpose? That purpose being correcting the mistaken, ending what needs to be ending, doing something just like the darkness, right? I wonder if... What that obviously makes me think is Araragi has this strict view of right and wrong, and these things that he thinks are correct and incorrect and like all of this stuff, right? He just had this experience. Well, maybe I'm already off on the wrong track here. I was about to say he just had this experience with the darkness where he thought what was happening with the darkness was very unjust and all of this, right? But that was 4 months ago, and I guess we don't know when Ogi shows up, so maybe that's kind of a gap in my theory here. But he just had this experience where he was faced with this literal materialization of the rules of the universe, right? He thought what happened was unjust, right? He is a person who is very driven by his rules, what he thinks is right and wrong, right? He's almost like a slave to his own morality and what he believes he has to do and what he can't do, no matter what. Just like the darkness is, right? So Ogi, being an oddity, describing herself as something just like the darkness, which is also just like Aragi's system of like right and wrong and these objective rules, makes me think that that is like, I guess what you could say Ogi, like, represents in a sense, right? I guess I don't know, like, what the conflict there would be, right? Like, because Araragi, for one, Araragi has had this view of right and wrong for, like, forever. So I guess you could say, well, that doesn't really make sense, right? Like, Araragi has had this view of right and wrong for, like, forever. So if that was going to make an oddity exist just based off that system of right and wrong, why did it only happen now, right? Like, I guess in Tsubasa Tiger, we talked about there was the activation moment for her, for the tiger spawning in, which was that feeling of jealousy and envy, right? It's like Hanakawa kind of had these boiling points where eventually just enough stuff piled up where Black Hanakawa would come out, or the tiger spawned in, that kind of thing, right? So I guess could you say that his feeling of the universe itself being unjust, like, created this externalized version of, like, his right and wrong? Correcting the mistaken, ending what's needed to be ended, right? Being just like the darkness, right? Yeah, it's a job that punishes the liars, I guess, right? I suppose, right? Now, what we have to do is think back on everything Ogi has ever done to, like, try and, like, fit this in, right? Okay. When we first saw her, I don't really know what to say about it, other than I feel like we can take maybe a bit of a different view on that now. Well, I don't know. I don't know. It makes sense that she was viewing Araragi in that way. That she could say all that stuff about him. Because if she is a literal representation of those rights and wrongs, it makes sense now why she would call what he's doing crossing on red lights, right? Because crossing on red lights is breaking the rules and is wrong, right? So if she is literally a representation of those wrongs, of those rules and those rights and wrongs, then of course she would describe it in that way of him, like, doing something dangerous and wrong, because that is what he's doing, right? He's changing. It's like he's breaking those rules. He's evolving past them. So of course, in her analogy, in her metaphor for it, she would frame what he's doing as crossing on red, doing things that are wrong, right? What else? What else? Okay, the other big one, obviously, is Nautico Medusa, what she did with Nautico. Um, oh my god, no, what else? Wait, in Nautico Medusa, she was looking for Hajikuji, right? Oh, I didn't. And Hajikuji's already gone by that point. That's why she couldn't find Hajikuji, because Hajikuji's gone. Hajikuji was already dead by then. So Hajikuji was already gone. That's why she couldn't find her. But if Ogi was looking for Hajikuji, that makes a lot of sense because, like, what I mean, I guess we kind of have to extrapolate that Ogi's job is always to punish the liars, so Hajikuji was lying, so you could say she was looking for Hajikuji to punish her, right? For lying, right? The problem with that is if I'm saying the reason why Ogi spawned in the first place is because Aragi experienced this crazy unjustness of Hajikuji disappearing, why then would the representation of the rules that thinks Hajikuji should have disappeared as well, that agrees with the darkness, why would it appear then, right? Unless you want to say that in that moment, perhaps, when Aragi thought that the darkness making Hajikuji disappear, right, that was so unjust, that it's like in his mind he had this realization that is something that goes so strongly against his rules, right? He thinks if he was following his rules, that his relationship with Hajikuji should be bad, right? That he shouldn't have this relationship with her. That it's incorrect, right? And despite the fact that he should feel like that, he instead feels that it's unjust, that it's unfair that she's being taken away from him. Maybe it's like that conflict in him, right? It's this realization he has that he is not following those rules, that he's not doing what he should be doing, right? That makes Ogi exist now, right? I guess that makes sense. Okay, what else has Ogi done? Hana, right? When Ogi shows up in Hana, I guess you could maybe say in some way she was fixing a liar with Kanbaru, right? It just depends on, like, how you want to view it, I guess, right? Kind of a vague way to view it. It's hard to say how Kanbaru's, like, mentality and problem in Hana fits into like Aragi's system of right and wrong, the way he views the world, right? I don't really know how to assess it. I don't know how Komburu's viewing of herself, regretting of her past actions, all of that. I don't know how that fits into Aragi's thing, you know? So therefore, I don't know how Ogi would react to her if that's what Ogi represents. But in a sense, I guess I would want to say that the way Kombaru viewed herself was essentially like her lying to herself, right? Like her wanting to correct the mistaken and punish the liars. I guess it makes sense that that would have like a positive outcome on Konbaru, like maybe, but that's just kind of a vaguer, more broad sense. That's kind of like me applying what I imagine being correcting the mistaken as, you know, not Araragi, which is what I'm saying she represents. So I guess I don't really know how to connect that. I don't really know what to say about that. I guess I would really have to think about Kombaru's problem. Because what was Kombaru's problem, right? She regrets her actions. She doesn't trust herself because of her past actions, right? Maybe, I guess you can say that would be against Aragi's system of right and wrong, because Aragi's system of right and wrong is so focused on himself, right? Like what he said to Karen and Karen B about how you can't let other people's opinions sway you, right? It is so self-focused and so self-centered. So it's almost like you can say Kombaru not trusting herself and not, like, believing in herself in the weird Aragi way, like that, is what you could say is the thing that Ogi, like, wanted to fix, right? Which isn't good exactly, right? But I guess you could say that in that sense, like, yeah, it's not like Aragi's mindset on things always has to be completely wrong, right? It's like, if Ogi was still fulfilling that in that case, then yeah, it did end up helping Konbaru, right? Because that was kind of her problem, was not trusting herself and, like, believing in herself enough, right? Being unable to trust her actions. And that's kind of what Aragi's whole thing has always been about. It's so, like, self-centered, right? It's anti, like, relationship, you know? Okay. No, I guess that all makes sense to me. What else have we seen from Ogi? She calls herself Oshino Ogi. She pretends to be the niece of Oshino Mime, according to Shinobu, right? Which maybe that makes sense, right? Because Oshino what had a very significant impact on Araragi, for sure, right? So Ogi showing up and calling herself Oshino Ogi and being almost like, you know, just in that way, there being like this connection between her and Oshino Mime. Maybe that just makes sense through like in Araragi's mind, you know? You'll know in due time, so please rest assured. Okay, I just might end up asking for your powers to aid me someday, Araragi. No, I think that all makes sense to me. I think that all makes sense to me. I'm trying to think, like, yeah, I guess I'm locking in on that explanation for how I want to view Ogi for now. I'm trying to think, where else have we seen her? The first arc she showed up in was Kabuki. We talked about that. It makes so much sense why she knows so much about Araragi if we view her in this way. Then it's Hana. Kind of got a stretch for that one. Like, maybe, right? That one's kind of rough. But the fact that an explanation can reasonably be reached, maybe is fine. Nautico Medusa. Oh no, we didn't talk about Nautico Medusa. We didn't talk about Nautico. You can kind of apply the same, like, general logic to it, maybe, which is of Nautico in a way, like, lying to herself about who and what she is, I suppose. But again, that's so broad. That's so broad, because we have to remember that if we're viewing Ogi in this way, what she means by the mistaken and the liars are people who are mistaken and lying based off of Araragi's view of right and wrong, if that's what I'm saying she, like, is, right? If that's what she represents, if that's what she embodies. So we have to think of something more specific than just saying that Nautico is lying to herself, right? Unless, of course, I mean, I guess you can say, obviously, that Araragi wouldn't have a positive view of this idea of lying to yourself, right? Because, of course, I think that's how he almost, like, views himself, right? This idea of, certainly now that Hachikuji's gone, I think a lot of progress has disappeared, but this idea of lying to himself about, like, all of these relationships that he has, and, like, himself changing as a person, all of this stuff, right? I guess I just don't know how to connect it to Nautico any more specifically than that, right? I guess you could say Aragi would have a distaste for the idea of someone, like, faking their personality, if you want to say that's, like, what Nautico is doing, right? Aragi wants people to be, like, their true selves, right? Aragi has a very distorted and wrong and incorrect view of what it means to be your true self, of course, because he thinks that the changes brought forth by relationships don't count, right? But I guess it makes sense why then Nautico being like that would be like bad in his mindset, right? Maybe like maybe I guess that makes sense. No, I guess. No, it makes so much sense, right? I don't have any other explanation for this darkness thing. I don't have any other explanation for, like, her link to Araragi and all of this. No, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. No, I'm locking in on all of that. So, if all of that's horribly wrong, that would be pretty embarrassing. But I think no matter what, she has to be linked to Araragi, like, for sure. I think she has to be. So, I'm going to I'm gonna say that hopefully everything I just said wasn't horribly wrong, based off that at least, right? I'm gonna hope I'm in the right ballpark at minimum, and I think I'm, like, right. Maybe. Okay. It feels like everyone just leaves me here and disappears. God, I feel so bad for Araragi now. Like, rough. I feel like I'm being left behind. Just a very sad thing to say. Because it's like, without Hachikuji to guide him anymore, of course he feels like that, right? Like, just how much progress it feels like just has been erased for him, you know? And Shinobu talks, hey you. I think you know this already, but that girl is probably something. Yeah, true, she may be. What, you already knew? No, there are so many things I don't know about. I wish I could know about everything. And it's interesting, I wonder if, yet again, this is another thing, where Araragi essentially already knows what she is, right? Maybe, right? Maybe. Because he's just being so, like, I don't know, just so blasé about it in a way, right? Just like, yeah, she might be. I don't care, you know? Like, yeah, I'm sure. I guess we still don't know the context in which Oki showed up, right? I mean, she's weird, she's creepy. Aragi seems to be down with just telling her everything, which he normally doesn't do with people, right? Like, I don't think most people he would normally tell them about all of this stuff, right? Like, yeah. Hmm. There are so many things I don't know about. I wish I could know about everything. Oh, man. Aragi. Nothing I think about helps me. I give up or I should try to fight. And I've even stopped being sad about it, I think. Yeah, no. It's just like, it's so... It's just the return of just horrible depression. It really is, right? Like, of course it is. For now, I'm keeping it a secret that Hajikuji is no longer here. Let's see how telling just Ogi-chan affects things. Oh, is blabbing off to a part of your war plan? Maybe. It just depends on what his view on her is, and, like, I guess what she represents, you know? Or did you just come up with it? So for how long? No clue, until there's some sort of result from it. I need to tell Oninoki-chan to keep quiet as well. Sounds like Hanakawa might easily see through it. But let's at least try to pretend as if Hajikuji is still around here in this town. I wonder if part of this is just cope, and just part of him just not wanting to give up on her, but... I don't know. Maybe. Isn't that regretful attachment? If you keep telling lies like that, you'll be swallowed up by the darkness. That won't happen. And, oh god, him saying that won't happen. Maybe. Maybe. Because it's to me, the darkness now seems so linked to this idea of, like, self-destructive thought and, like, almost like suicidality in a way, right? That him, like, Shinobu bringing up this worry of him being swallowed by the darkness. I don't know. I wonder how worried Shinobu is about him now, right? Shinobu must be able to so easily tell how horribly he is affected by this, right? By Hajikuji being gone. I'm sure she's doing the best she can, right? That won't happen. I hope not. With my shoes in hand, I went home. The path I always use. Oh. Now empty of anybody I could meet. God, literally, no Hajikuji. Not gonna be running into Hajikuji. Come to think of it, on that day 4 months ago, I never used those words with respect to my farewell to Hajikuji. I'm pretty dumb to realize that just now. And he waits for the light to be red. And this, I guess, this is very important with that whole stuff about Ogi. He waits for the light to turn green now. He waits for it to turn red from green. It's like this is a representation of all of that progress disappearing in a way, right? Like if what we're saying ever since that conversation with Ogi is that the red lights are almost like him willing to break the rules, to break these rules that are so important to him, and like do things outside of his comfort zone, do things that are dangerous, and almost change as a person, despite the red lights telling him to stop. He can't do that anymore, right? Without Hachikuji, he has to wait for it to be green. Like, God. Sayonara, Hachikuji Mayoi. I'm happy I was able to meet you. God, that's just such a sad line. I'm happy I was able to meet you. It's like now he just thinks everything that she is and everything that she was to him is just like gone now, right? It's like this passing thing that it's like it's almost like he was silly to think he could have held on to it, you know? That it's just that she's gone now, you know? God, what a fucking sad episode. What a sad episode. Well, that was just so depressing. That was just so depressing, but well, that's the new longest discussion ever. This one really dragged on. So, if anyone listened to this whole thing, I'm good job, I guess. I'm happy, I suppose. That was a really good one, though. That was a really good one. I just didn't think this was gonna happen. I didn't think this late into the game we were gonna have this happen with Araragi. But oh well, he can get through it, I believe. So yeah, I guess that's it. Next time we're starting Hatagi End, Koi Monogatari, right? Love story, right? Koi is like specifically like romantic love, right? That's like the implication behind it. Which is interesting. Hatagi End is a very like this is the arc where Araragi and Senjugahara break up. That's why it's called Hatagi End. That'd be a really good follow-up to this one. That'd be really awesome. That would be great. if right after this arc we get the breakup arc, Hatagi End. That would be really awesome. Yeah, that would be really I don't know if Araragi could get through that one, but I guess we'll see. Well, I guess that's it. It's rough to end this one. I feel like I could talk about this episode forever, but we gotta end it. So yeah, that's it. So please subscribe if you enjoy my videos. Leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.